and we will start in Atlanta. Of course, we're starting in Atlanta. That's the first game on the rotation for Sunday's slate. Saints at the Falcons, and we are 3 across the board, PJ. When we first started doing the show, it was 2.5. But now with the Saints injury report, less than ideal. Demario Davis, their green dot linebacker, he's been ruled out. Cesar Ruiz is already out. Eric McCoy's on short-term IR, their center. He is out. So is A.T. Perry. And then Chris Olave popping up on the injury report with a hamstring injury that he suffered in today's practice. The total sitting at 41 for the Falcons. It's Caleb McGarry who will be out of this game. What do you like side total Falcons hosting the New Orleans Saints?
We were talking about earlier in the show, we were wondering if we were going to get a 3 with the injury news and Olave, hurting his hamstring at practice today. Well, we've got our 3. So I like the Saints quite a bit in this spot. Look, first 2 great weeks for the New Orleans against Carolina and Dallas. Their offense was cooking last week against the Eagles, who were coming off that brutal loss to Atlanta. Eagles pass rush was just in Derek Carr's face all game. I think the sign of a pretty good team, though, Femi, is when you don't play your best game at all, yet you still probably should have won that game. I think Nick Sirianni contributed to that a lot, but, the Saints had the Eagles 3rd and 16. You stop them right there, you win the game. So, now they go on the road and face Atlanta. We were talking about this at the beginning of the show. Whatever reason, there's always money coming in on the Falcons, right before kickoff, right? We saw it against the Steelers week 1, took that line up to 4.5. Monday Night Football brought it down from 6.5 to 5.5 against the Eagles. Saquon catches that pass. They don't cover that spread. And then against the Chiefs on Sunday night, 4.5 comes all the way down to 3, and they don't execute at the end. Atlanta's got their injuries too. Their O-line is a little bit banged up. And just getting the Saints off of that bad loss to the Eagles, I think they're going to respond. Remember, you don't want to back Dennis Allen off of back-to-back wins, back-to-back covers. Mm-hmm. But I don't mind getting him off of a loss. I've talked about this show when I've done guest hits with you and Nick. Anytime we get a team that was favored at home the previous week, they lose outright, and then we get them as a dog the next week. Some of the spots I love in the NFL. So now that we're getting to 3, I think the Saints win this game outright, to be honest with you. So love Saints +3. I like them outright as well.
Yeah, I like this New Orleans Saints +3 as well. These rivalry games, I always kind of tend to lean on the underdog in these divisional games, especially early on in the season. And let's just see how far this market gets out to. Right now it's 3 -105 over at BetMGM, but I'm seeing 3 -110 pretty much across the board. Do we ever get to where we're maybe getting a cheap 3 for the New Orleans Saints? Could we get +3 -105 or +3 even money? I don't think we'd get 3.5. That's probably asking for too much. But I'm just going to see. Maybe we can get some +3 even money. And I think that would even be a better bet. But at +3 or better, it's a bet on the New Orleans Saints for me, just because Kirk Cousins is still kind of coming off of that Achilles injury. Now he's going up against a really good defensive mind in Dennis Allen, who, we give him a lot of flack as a head coach, but he's still one of the premier defensive play callers in the NFL. So I like the New Orleans Saints this game. I haven't bet this one. I'm going to wait to see how good of a number that we can get, but I will have +3 or better in pocket at some point between now and Sunday. All right, let's head over to Tampa Bay. Could be weather in this game. Obviously, our thoughts are out there with everybody in the Southeast dealing with this hurricane that's hitting us this weekend. But the Bucs are 1-point underdogs. We've seen some market movement with this game after the Philadelphia Eagles injury report, and boy, is it a lengthy one, or I shall say an important one. Devontae Smith, the receiver, ruled out. A.J. Brown, questionable. Practice today dealing with the hamstring injury. Lane Johnson in concussion protocol. He's questionable right now, but could be trending in the right direction for Tampa. Kalijah Kancey is out. Antoine Winfield Jr. is out. Vita Vea, though, is the big one, probably limited today at practice. He's listed as questionable in this game. I think they really, really need him if Kancey's not going to play to stop Saquon Barkley in that Philadelphia Eagles run game. PJ, 1-point favorites are the Eagles. Total 42.5. Anything that you're doing here, Eagles, Bucs.
Man, this is a tough one. All those injuries to navigate through. We were talking about it earlier, Femi. I don't think I can make a bet on this game until I know what's the status of Vita Vea. I think a lot of people think that maybe Lane Johnson or A.J. Brown are the most important pieces in this game. I think it's Vita Vea and what he means to that defense for Tampa with all the injuries that they have on the back end, and obviously going up against that Philly rushing attack and Saquon. So if Vita Vea is in the middle, stopping Saquon, Devontae Smith, we already know, is out. I would expect A.J. Brown to also be out because Philly has a bye next week. So, like, why would you rush them back when you have a bye in week 5? So I'm leaning towards the Bucks here, Femi. I'm willing to wait and have this line, lose some value, have them be a favorite if A.J. Brown's announced that he's out, Lane Johnson too, obviously, and then Vita Vea is in. To me, it's worth waiting to see the injury report because that's what it comes down to in this game. But I am more and more starting to lean towards Tampa.
Yeah, this is one I lean towards Tampa. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there at the betting window, but I do believe Vita Vea is important. And also Lane Johnson for Philadelphia is really important because some of the splits, the on-off stuff, like when they have Lane Johnson, really good offense. Whenever he doesn't play, it drops off a cliff. Like, just keep an eye on that Lane Johnson injury. I'm sure we'll find out at some point tomorrow on Saturday because the Eagles have to travel to Tampa for the game. Like, if he's on the plane, maybe that's a good sign that he's willing to play or able to play in the game. But if he's not, clearly he won't be playing. So he's got to work through the concussion protocol, the final stages of that one. So keep an eye on that Saturday. If you're in any of the contests, have to make your submissions by then, or if you're looking to bet this game at some point between now and kickoff. Let's get over to the AFC West, though. Chiefs at the Chargers. A bunch of injuries for the Chargers. Rashawn Slater out. Joey Bosa out. Junior Colson out. Joe Alter, rookie offensive tackle. DNP today, questionable. Justin Herbert, limited. I expect him to play, but he is listed as limited. A lot of injuries on the Chargers side. They are now catching 7 against KC, total 39.5, PJ.
Like the Chargers, Femi, +7. I think this game's very similar to Rams and 49ers last week, right? Where you get one of the teams that was in the Super Bowl last year going up against an LA team who's beat up at SoFi, laying a touchdown on the road in a divisional game. This is just one of those NFL games where it's just any given Sunday. The Chargers are all beat up. They got so many stars that aren't going to play in this game, but they'll just find a way to keep it close. Look, the Chiefs are the best team in football. They win a ton of games, but they really don't blow people out, And this being a divisional game, the Chargers are obviously as well coached as they've ever been under Harbaugh. So I'll take LA, key number there at +7 to keep it close.
Same here. And if you like LA, shop around, please, because there's some 7.5s out there, and you might be able to wait and get a 7.5 over at BetMGM. But it's Jim Harbaugh. It's hurt Justin Herbert, but he's still Justin Herbert, getting more than a touchdown. Auto bet for me on the Chargers. I think they keep it competitive. How about the Green Bay Packers, though? They got some news on Jordan Love. He was limited all week. Matt LaFleur, once again, listing him as questionable for the game. It sounds like they're going to once again take this up to game time. Last Sunday, he was actually warming up against Tennessee. I almost felt like that was like an indication that he should be good to go with this Sunday. We'll see how that works out when he goes through warmups at Lambeau Field later on this weekend. But Green Bay right now is a 2.5-point favorite. The total is at 43.5. There's even a 3 out there at a couple spots here. Does this Jordan Love injury news make you want to do anything in this market? Vikings against the Packers.
Not at 2.5. I think if it gets to 3, which I think it will when Love's officially good to go, I think I would lean towards Minnesota. Honestly, Femi, of all the games this weekend, this is probably the one I have the least opinion on. I think a lot of people are going to like Green Bay, especially if Jordan Love's back, because, they're looking for a reason to fade Minnesota, who's off to this hot start. Love is back, but how many times do we see a quarterback come back, maybe when they shouldn't necessarily, they kind of rush him back, and Jordan Love doesn't look as good as he normally has, certainly over the last 10 weeks that he's been playing, dating back to last season. What Brian Flores is doing with this Minnesota defense and how they've been playing, the last couple weeks, man, and O'Connell and obviously Sam Darnold, I think if you get a 3 in a game like this, Minnesota would probably be the play for me. But, this is a game I'm not touching anything in, whether it be props or side or total. I'll sit back and watch, and, we'll get another data point on Minnesota. Hopefully Jordan Love plays, and we get to see him back out there with the Packers. If I had to bet it, I'd take the Vikings at the 3, but that would be probably my advice, is if you like Minnesota, I would wait, because I do think Love's going to play. I do think this thing goes up to 3. If you like Green Bay, I think I'd probably take a shot with the 2.5 here, because I do feel like Jordan Love's going to play. So get the best of the number while you still can.
Yeah, I think Love's going to play as well. I was, as somebody who likes the Minnesota Vikings season long, I've been touting Skull all season long with like Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year, Vikings to make the playoffs since the summertime. My hope with this game is that when Love ultimately is announced as active and playing in the game, that maybe we get a pop in the market to where I would not anticipate that we're going to get to 3.5 just because to go from 2.5 to 3.5, that's like a really big adjustment. I know it's Jordan Love and he's an important player to Green Bay, but like it's already kind of partially baked in that there's some optimism that he will play in the game. So we're probably just going to get to 3 minus 110 pretty much across the board. At that point, I got to figure out if I want to back Minnesota. I also don't love backing teams that are coming off like back-to-back really big wins. They beat the Niners, they beat the Texans, and it almost feels like now is the time that if you were to bet a Minnesota game, you'd want to sell the Vikings. But I think if you ever got a 3.5, at that point, it would be a bet on Minnesota. So right now, probably going to end up not betting the game. I'll probably be on the sidelines with you and just rooting on the Minnesota Vikings to hopefully pull off another upset. Let's go, Kevin O'Connell. Let's do it, Sam Darnold. Let's go ahead and get to the window once again.